everybody, it's Debbie here and welcome back to my Crafty Den. Today is day 2 in my 12 days of Christmas ornaments series and I am excited to do today's video. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, then please check it out. I'll leave a link in the description box. And yeah, if you're a new viewer here, then please consider subscribing to my channel so you can watch the rest of this series. I'm sure that's why you've tuned in. And I hope you enjoy what I have to offer on my channel. So if you're a returning subscriber, thanks so much for all of your support, and I hope you enjoy this one. So let's get to it, should we? So I have these gift tags that I made, and I was working on them, and it's only all because of this cardstock that gave me this idea. This is the cardstock I used to make the trees yesterday. And if you haven't seen that video, then go ahead and check it out. I'll leave the description below. And anyway, I decided I wanted to make a couple of gift tags for some gift bags that I wanted to make. And I just grabbed some of that cardboard and I covered it on both sides. And just as I was finishing these up, I was just taking my Sharpie and going around the edges. And as I was finishing these up, I thought, what a great idea for an ornament. So you could make ornaments that look like gift tags, but I don't think I want mine to be quite this big. These are about 3.5 inches wide and almost 6 inches long. They're the size of they're even bigger than that. So I cut them large. So I think I'm going to make mine just a bit smaller so that I can get a couple out of each of these. And I have the plaid, let me see. I have the plaid paper pad, and I am just so in love with this plaid paper pad. And I think I've mentioned in a video before, I have to start using things. I can't hoard them. So I've just got so much. These plaids are phenomenal. So I'm going to use some of these plaids. I'm going to use, of course, the heavy duty cardstock. I am going to use some of my, I think I'm going to try the Tombow liquid glue. It's really tacky. It catches really fast and it dries really good, and it doesn't tend to wrinkle the paper very much at all. So I'm going to try that. That's what I'm going to try. So I'm going to do something similar to these, not quite as big, make them a little more decorative. I'm going to try to do both sides because I want them to be able to hang on the tree. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start by measuring this. This is 8. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 2.5, 5, and 2.5. I can get 3 if I do 2.5 by about 4.5. And I think that will be a good size for a little ornament. So let's cut these. I'm just going to use my trimmer. Put it right side up. So let's do that. Let's do 2.5. Let's do the 2.5 first so that I can see exactly how big that is. So that's 2.5. That's almost good for a tag. So that would be 2.5 by 5. Maybe a little wee bit off. Maybe I'll do 2.5 by 4.5 and trim my corners and see if that kind of proportions it a little bit better. Very well. That could very well be it. So all I'm going to do is take a 1/2 inch off and cut 2.5 inches. So let's do the 1/2 inch off first. That saves a cut. And 2.5. And 2.5. There. So I got 3 cut. I might do a half a dozen of these, but I'll start with 3. And I'm going to pick some papers. And yeah, it's the picking that's the hardest. So I'm just gonna push pause for a second here and pick some papers. And okay, so this is what I chose. I chose this one. I've already cut some pieces out for another project, which will probably be in this series. I chose this one because, well, yeah, that's a little bit self-explanatory, I think. This is just perfect. It is so... it's just so plaid. And then I chose this one, which is just basically the 2 colors. But yeah, I love this one. I just love them. I love all the plaids in here. It was actually really hard to pick. So what I'm going to do is take my paper trimmer, and I want them to be the same on both sides. So what I'm going to do is cut a 4.5 inch piece from all 3 pieces, just like this. I'm going to tuck those right in there so that I can use them for a future project. And then I'm going to take this, put this back up here again now that that paper pad is gone, and I am going to do the 2.5 inch cuts. So 2.5 inches. You just have to make sure that they're right together every time you do this if you're going to cut all your papers together. And 2.5. And that'll do my 3. I wonder if I can get the rest of them out of here. 2.5. And 2.5. So that'll give me a half a dozen ornaments. And I still have little scraps left. I always keep my little scraps, of course. So I think that's all the cutting that I'm going to do with that. So that gives me my cardstock, and it gives me my papers. But they're all together like this. So now I just have to sort them out. So there's one, both sides, another one on both sides, and the third one, both sides. Let's just do this. May as well while we're at it, eh? I missed a green. Whoops, I missed a green one. I missed a green one right there. So I have enough to do 2 ornaments with each color. There. So a little bit organized. I'm a little bit organized this time. Let's get rid of that. And I'm just going to set these aside over here. And I am going to start putting these on here. So what I'm going to do before I cut my tag shape and before I punch it is I'm going to put this on the front and the back. Then I'm going to cut my corners, and then I'm going to punch. Then I'm going to go around in a color and do all my edging. So I like to still do my edging in black or use an ink pad or whatever it is that I'm going to do, because when you cut yours separately, you end up with a little bit difference in size. See how there's just a teeny tiny edging showing on that? But that's okay. So I'm going to try this glue and see how it works for this. I'm going to put it right on the tag. Now, the reason I'm thinking the Tombow is because it has the both ends, and this nice wide end, see that? Has like a little wee brush on it, and it spreads the glue really thin on there. So I'm going to try this, make sure I get it lined up really good. Now with this cardstock, these paper pads are like a thin cardstock. And there. So it's a liquid glue, so I can move it around just a tad, which is good. And then push it down, and it's there. It's stuck. And you can see that there's a teeny tiny little edge, but we'll take care of that later. So I'm just going to do the back. Now this side isn't shiny, so it may not have as much movement time. But I'm hoping that the liquid glue will help me get that cardstock on there, or that plaid paper on the cardstock without too much difficulty. There. And liquid glue does give you a little bit of fixing time, which is what I like. There. Good. So I'm going to do that with all 3 ornaments. So they turned out pretty good. I went ahead and cut 3 more pieces of the cardstock and glued all 6 of them on both sides, because I figured I may as well do them all together, because I was going to have to wait for the glue to dry anyway. So there's not much warping or bending in them. There's always a little bit when you're using a liquid glue with paper, but these are straightening out really nicely. Like, I'm just putting a little wee bit of back pressure and just a little bit, and these are straightening right out. So that's good. I'm liking the way that they've turned out so far. So I've got my 6 blanks, and now I'm going to turn these into tags. So what I'm going to do is make myself a template of a little corner so that I can use it to cut the corners off, and all of them are the same. I'm just going to take a piece of paper. I'm going to put it right on the corner, and I'm going to try to decide how much of a corner I want to cut off. It's not going to be very much, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do this, take my pencil, draw a line like that, and then I'm going to cut that off, just like that. I think that's going to be good. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to use this. I'm just going to put it here like that. I don't need this whole big piece of paper, so I'm just going to clip that off. Put that back over there. So I'm going to just take that like that, put it on, and I am going to cut that off. And I'm going to flip it, because that's going to give me the exact opposite. I'm going to make sure that it's straight, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and that should give me a nice even tag. And I kind of like that. I like that. I like this. This was on an angle, not quite square to the paper, you can see, but that doesn't matter. I like it. Anyway, it's cool. And then I am going to take, I'm sorry I lost a tiny bit of video there, but all I did was cut my corners off. I had measured and cut that first corner off, and I used it to cut all the rest. And then I used my little chomper thingy here, and on the large hole I set my depth, so I had it at a good spot, and then I just went through and I punched each one. So now what I'm going to do, and even though these are Christmas decorations and black's not a traditional Christmas color, I'm still going to take this marker, and I am going to go around the edges like this. So I'm just going to do that, and I'm going to go all the way around all 6 of them, and then I don't have to worry about it again. So I've edged these, and I've put a ton of stuff out onto my tabletop. So I'm not going to make you watch everything that I do. I think what I'll do is just film it and then speed it up so that you don't have to watch it all. And yeah, and then I hope you get some ideas. So that's what I'm going to do. This is the finished tag ornaments. I think they're cute as can be. I love them. I absolutely love them. So I've made 3 sets to show you 3 different ideas, and these are limited only by your imagination. So the first set was so simple. All this is I cut down some, I just cut down these store-bought tags. I've had these for quite some time. I actually think I picked them up at the end of the season from a grocery store for $1, and there's a ton of them in there. So I trimmed the tag down to the rectangle and stuck it on each one. I did the front and the back so that the back would have some color and be finished when it was hanging on a tree, but normally you hang your ornaments so that they're out, so I didn't embellish them both on the back. I added a little bow, I added a little bell, and I added some liquid pearls down at the bottom here just for a little bit of dimension at the bottom. And on this one I just alternated for a different tag, the same bow and bell, and I put the liquid pearls around the outside, and I actually raised this a little wee bit. So I think they're cute. Anybody could do these. You could do these with your kids if you want to. They're so simple, absolutely so simple. So those two, these definitely can be done with your kids. You don't have to use jute bows. You could just use a pre-made bow. You could put anything on these you want to. These are, once again, those puffy stickers from either Dollar Tree or Dollarama. I used some of the Distress Oxide to go around the outside edge and kind of makes the paper look layered. Don't you think that makes the paper look layered without actually having to layer? So all I've done was go around with some stitching. That's just a pen. I used the ink to edge it in a different color so that the paper would look like there was two pieces of paper, one on top of the other, and stitched on there. So yeah, that gives it a different look. It gives it a dimensional look, and there's tons of texture here. These little stickers, the ones that I love so much, the puffy stickers, have a wood grain to them, and with the jute texture, these ones are definitely just about texture and ease. How easy these are to make. Even the back looks a little bit layered just by etching. So I love those, but these ones are my absolute favorite. I love the simplicity. I love the rusticness. Yeah, these are cottage ornaments for sure. So I live in cottage country. Oh, one of my liquid pearls must have come off, but that's okay. They don't usually once they're dry. I must have touched it when it was wet. But this one is all about, excuse me, I got that scratchy throat that just doesn't seem to want to go away. So this is about lots of jute up here to make the bow. I had previously done these. I did them when I was sitting one day just watching TV, and I made a whole bag of them. So this is about the little wood ornaments. So what I've done was I popped up the little moose. The moose kind of matches the bluish gray in the plaid, which I really like. The joy, the little wooden joy piece, and instead of using hot glue to stick that on there, I actually used some Eileen's tacky glue, because I wanted to make sure that that would stick down. I had to put glue. It had to be something with a fine point, and I have some of that in, where did I set my little bottle? Right here. So I have one of these little reusable bottles, and I have the Eileen's tacky glue in here. I lost my little top, so I have a wire in there. But yeah, because this has got such a nice fine point on it, I like to use that for things like this little word where I have to have glue on every little piece so that they don't fall off. Yeah, so I'm doing this voiceover, or this ending the next morning, because these had to dry overnight. They didn't have to dry overnight. They had to dry for an hour. And I didn't want to smudge these. I'd already smudged a couple of them, and I didn't want to do any more. So I left them to dry overnight. Now the stickles, it took probably overnight to dry. So I just want to show you these little trees that I added. These are the little wooden trees from one of these little trays. I took the Distress Oxide and I just pressed the tree down into the pad and I inked it up. And I sat them there until they were dry to the touch. But the thing about these oxides is they're not permanent. If you add a liquid to them, they reactivate, which is kind of cool. Not cool in some ways, but kind of cool in others. And this is one of the cool ways. So I put on the clear stickles. These are white, but they dry clear so that just the sparkles show. What happens when you put them on that oxide is it picks the ink up from the oxide, and now I have green stickles. Like, aren't they gorgeous? Yeah, so these are my two favorites for sure. So if you liked this little ornament DIY, then give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to comment. Share this maybe with moms that are looking for ideas for things to do with their you know, their preteen kids. These would be great for preteens. My granddaughter loves doing stuff like this. And yeah, so day 2 finished. I'm going to have a ton of ornaments by the time I am done this. I won't have to get any of my Christmas decorations out here at all. I'll be able to pack them up all to take down east. So, yeah, day 2 is done, and I hope you liked it. I just stay tuned for tomorrow, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye for now.